Hey everyone, welcome back to Awful Stories. It's Matt here, and make sure to drop a like and subscribe to not miss your daily fix on Reddit stories. Let's jump into our first post in the True Off My Chest subreddit. The post is titled, I hate the way my sister is raising her kid. My sister and her husband are both incredibly smart people, and they're trying to raise their daughter, Amanda, to be really smart too. But honestly, they've set their child up to be the weird kid. They never use baby talk at all. No mama or dada, no lovey, doggy, or even yummy. It was always the full words, and they had her use full words when talking about anything as well. Now they have a 5 year old running around talking like a tiny professor. It's cute if you're an adult watching her correctly use excessive in a sentence, but it makes her stand out among other kids who have no idea what it means. It also took her much longer to start speaking at all compared to our younger cousins or their children. Amanda is 5 years old and has never seen any kind of television that isn't Steve Irwin reruns or used a touchscreen for anything. That's not necessarily bad, but it does mean that she doesn't know any Disney movies, has never seen Bluey, played any games, or watched anything else the rest of her class is into. She can't join in when they talk about those things, and it makes her stand out even more. Yesterday at pickup, almost everyone was singing songs from Trolls, and she was just standing off to the side watching. Some of their tests are also done on tablets, and she has no idea what to do when she's handed one. The teacher doesn't seem to know what to do with a kid who needs instructions just to navigate it. This is her first year in a group environment. Previously, she was always watched by family or a babysitter, so no daycare or preschool of any kind. As a result, she's absolutely miserable at school. Not only does she have to compete for the teacher's attention, but the other kids want little to nothing to do with her. She stands out, has almost no friends, and really hates it. I watch her for a couple of hours after school until her parents get off work, and it's awful asking how her day went and hearing her describe being left out or made fun of. Now the first birthday parties are happening, and my niece isn't invited to either of the ones this weekend, even though basically the entire class is going. I really hate seeing her so miserable. I feel like if she had been in group care earlier, or even seen some popular shows or movies, she would have an easier time making friends. But I can't say any of this to my sister or even my parents, who like how traditional her upbringing is, and constantly go on long winded rants about how technology is killing society and we're all becoming Wally. There's nothing I can really do except watch her come home miserable. It really sucks. I can comfort her all I want, but the next day it's always the same. Waffle said, she will pick it all up, whether she uses it at home or not. My 4 year old comes home every day talking about Star Wars and Pokemon. She knows the characters by name. We have never watched either, and I don't even know anything about them, but she picks it up from the other kids. It's the same with the tablet. She'll learn to use it at school whether she uses it at home or not. I think in early schooling, it can be obvious which children were in group care as babies, toddlers, or preschoolers. But eventually, those differences fade, and you can no longer tell. Nilo said, yeah, I don't get OP's problem here. About 25 years ago, we didn't have a computer at home, yet we had to use them at school and learn how they worked. And I was much older than 5. I also learned about Pokemon at school, in first or second grade, along with Diddle and many other things. As for the baby talk, it actually does more harm than good. Talking to children normally is the better approach. To this comment, Fearless Gear said, I was this kid. I wasn't allowed to watch TV shows aimed at children or teens, use the internet outside of school, have a phone, or access a computer at home until I was 16, born in 1998. So I read a lot and played a lot of sports. I always scored in the 99th percentile on verbal standardized tests, and strong verbal and athletic skills have been valuable assets in my life. That being said, I did, and still do to an extent, struggle to relate to people my age. I didn't know the slang or pop culture, and my peers often thought I was being pretentious when I spoke the way my family did at home. Fortunately, the skills I lacked were ones that could be learned later in life, although the learning curve made the social transition to high school and college more difficult than it should have been. I always felt a bit like an outsider. Even though I had cool friends, I was never really considered part of any particular group, or especially cool myself because of that gap. That said, I do wish my parents had let me be more of a kid. There's a middle ground here. I think excessive access to technology is also stunting the social skills of today's youth. Ultimately, though, my upbringing gave me extremely valuable abilities that are hard to develop as an adult. My top 1% verbal skills have made me a lot of money because of their rarity. I also likely wouldn't have attended a top tier college without those skills and my athletic achievements. Despite some difficulties, I eventually adapted socially and learned the technological skills I lacked as a young adult, which I consider a worthwhile trade off. Also, I'm thankful I didn't have social media growing up during the early internet era when my peers were posting things they now regret. That's another advantage of this parenting style. The second story for today takes place in the True Off My Chest subreddit, titled, My Husband Says He Hates Me During Sex. This is my first Reddit post. It feels strange sharing this online, but I don't feel comfortable talking to my friends or family about it. I'm at a loss right now and truly don't know how to feel. My husband, 28M, and I, 28F, have been married for almost 2 years. Lately, it feels like we've been fighting about everything, both big and small. A few days ago, during an argument, I told him for the first time that it felt like he hated me. He immediately apologized, comforted me, and said that wasn't true. He assured me that he loved me and never wanted me to feel that way. Later that same night, we went over to our neighbor's house to watch the fights. We both had a few drinks while we were there. Nothing crazy though. When we got home, we started being intimate. We've always had a playful and good dynamic in that area, and we're comfortable with each other. We both enjoy some dirty talk and have been doing it for years. But this time, something felt different. In the middle of having sex, he leaned in close and whispered in my ear, I hate you. I froze, thinking surely I must have misheard him. But then he doubled down and said it again. I immediately told him to stop. I don't think he even realized I was serious until I yelled at him to get off me. I was completely shocked and couldn't find the words to say in that moment, so I ended up sleeping in the guest room that night. The next morning, we had plans to go to Costco. The car ride was silent and tense until I finally brought it up. I told him how weird and hurtful it was that he said that to me. He brushed it off, saying that he was just drunk, that he didn't mean it, and that it was just part of dirty talk. He convinced me that I was overreacting, but this wasn't the same as what we've done before, not even close. Especially because earlier that day, I told him it felt like he hated me, and then he said those exact words during one of our most vulnerable moments. By the time we pulled into the Costco parking lot, I was crying. I told him I wasn't going inside and just sat in the car, trying to process what had happened. I don't know if I'm overreacting, but I can't shake how wrong this feels. I keep replaying it in my head and feel embarrassed and ashamed. The whole situation is so bizarre, it doesn't even feel real. Well, this is straight up just painful and confusing. Feeling like you're constantly fighting in a marriage where you once felt safe and loved is devastating. When your partner says something as harsh as, I hate you, during an intimate moment, especially right after you voiced a real feeling of hurt, it's no surprise that you were completely shocked and deeply hurt. Dubbing it just dirty talk is such a cop out, in my opinion. It's not just dirty talk, and it's absolutely normal to feel shaken by it. It's heartbreaking that OP's husband dismissed her feelings, saying it was just the alcohol or part of the game, and made you feel like you were overreacting. When communication breaks down this way, it's a huge red flag. Thick News said, yeah, that's not dirty talk. You don't just tell someone you hate them for no reason. I wouldn't let that go. In fact, it would make me rethink the entire relationship. Icy and Dicey said, honestly, it sounds intentional to me. He knew that was a painful topic for you at this moment and chose to do it anyway. If you'd like, have a sit down talk with him about his actions. Tell him that you didn't appreciate how he dismissed you when you brought it up, and that this isn't something the two of you can just move on from. It's a terrible thing to take something you were genuinely hurting over and turn it into dirty talk. His comfort earlier in the day and his words now feel like lies because he chose to say something he knew would hurt you in your most vulnerable moment. He chose to make sex with him feel unsafe. If it were me, I'd tell him that you no longer feel comfortable being intimate with him. I personally wouldn't want to have sex with someone who says they hate me or treats me this way. Even if he doesn't hate you, his actions last night show that he doesn't care about your emotions, mental health, or feelings of safety, and he clearly doesn't respect you. He isn't entitled to your body. You choose to give it to him, and you can rescind that choice at any time based on his respect or lack thereof toward you. His dismissive actions when you voiced your concerns speak volumes about how he views you, your emotions, and your needs. He sees you as dismissible and overlookable. To me, this would be a divorce worthy offense. This third and final story is titled AITA for not stocking the fridge for my husband after his business trip. My husband went out of the country for a business trip and returned home over the weekend. I was out of town visiting friends when he got back. His complaint was that he was left with no food. For context, I do the majority of the grocery shopping, about 90 to 10, and he takes care of his share of other chores. I admit, the refrigerator wasn't full of fresh food because I hadn't gone to the store that week. However, I can confirm that the freezer had several meals, and the pantry had food that could have been prepared. It might not have been what he was hoping for, but there were options. We also live in a major city with plenty of grocery stores and restaurants within walking distance. Again, not ideal after a red eye international flight, but still options. At first, it wasn't a big deal, more of a joke. But when he repeatedly made jabs about it, I stood up for myself and now it has turned into a full blown argument. We're both stubborn people. I can acknowledge that it would have been nice if I'd stocked the fridge before his return. However, I work a full time job too, and I see it as both of us being capable adults who can provide food for ourselves when the other is busy. I've got to know, am I the asshole in this situation? LDIJ said, "What got me was the restaurants and grocery stores within walking distance. He didn't even have to get the car out to get something to eat, especially since there was food in the freezer and pantry. His reaction is completely over the top." Yuri Loves Rice said, "You're not the asshole. Did he never go on business trips when he was single? Does he not know how to function as an independent adult?